Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And tonight we will be reviewing, I guess it would be, I don't know if it would be considered a cult classic or...
It's done something out of the...
it's considered a bit of a cult classic now.
It did better in the home market. It didn't fare as well at the theatre. Now, this is a Western-themed monster horror comedy. Now, when I say horror they got enough comedy in it to make it funny, and they've got enough horror in it to make it interesting. We've got a bit of action thrown in. I think it made in America it was rated about 13 plus or something like that. It wasn't meant for little kiddies.
No.
But it wasn't necessarily made as an out and out adult horror movie either. So it sits very nicely on the fence.
Yeah, it sits in the middle.
Exactly.
Exactly. So it's called Tremors.
1990.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About some weird slugs.
Oh, there's something or others, yeah. Prehistoric type creatures that finally came to the top of the earth and started gobbling up people and moo cows and other good
I came up with an interesting theory about why these creatures are attacking humans now. I think the underground creatures that they normally attack have been either eaten up or extinct, and so they decide to attack the people on the surface.
Probably. They're a bit peckish. Anyway, here we go. Now, produced by... Actually, this is the part I really like. Produced by Brent Maddock and S.S. Wilson. I don't know who S.S. is.
It sounds like a name of a boat.
Well, good,
S.S. Minnow.
My all who sail in... No, there you go, whatever. Directed by Ron Underwood. Now, story by Brent Maddock, S.S. Wilson and Ron Underwood. And the screenplay was by Brent Underwood and S.S. Wilson. So they really had a good hands-on approach to making this film, which is really... Some people have said over the years to Sarah, "Oh, you can't do it all." Well, sometimes you have to do it all. I will mention one thing that in the remake, I think Wilson actually did the directing to save money because they were on a shoestring budget on the second movie. So, yes, you can do multitasking.
True.
So don't let any of you up-and-coming independent filmmakers have people in your ear saying, "Oh, you can't do it all." Yeah, if you got the skills, do it.
Yeah, if you have the skills and you have the crew and if you had the technology, then you have...
And if you got the skills.
Yes, and if you have the skills on board, then you're on to something.
A producer, to me, I got the money, I'm going to organise it. Okay? So that's easy. A director, stand there, DOP, do that, whatever. Okay, so you know if you wrote the story, you know what you want.
Exactly.
You might as well direct the thing. You know?
Yeah, so...
Anyway, let's move along.
Yeah, let's move along. Who stars
wait a
in
minute.
it and stuff?
Budget was 10 million. Only box office at 16.7. They expected to get a lot more than that, but I think it did a lot better on the home market. Yeah, when it was released on probably then VHS and then subsequent DVDs and whatever. Actually, having a funny thing I was going to talk about later, they've got a lot of Blu-rays for this now because it's still holding its own, and special issue packs and everything else. They're 4K versions. This has really held its own over the years, so that's very impressive. Anyway, what do I want to say? Do you want to get straight into telling the story? Or?
Let's just start asking. Let's just talk about the stars in this.
Oh yes, I didn't.
These
do the
ones have
stars
a great star selection, as you will
I'm not going to go through every star. I've got a lot of people mentioned here had bit roles, but the main ones are Kevin Bacon in one of his early roles. He plays Valentine McKee. Fred Ward as Earl Bass. What a great name! Sounds fishy to me.
Well, I wouldn't say it's his earlier...
Fishy, Bass is a fish.
I know, I just meant that this is not one of his earlier roles, considering Kevin Bacon also starred in Friday the 13th, the first Friday the 13th, when he was a much younger man.
When he was a little bigger. Okay, right, okay, fine. Okay, but I'm saying... he's gone on to bigger and better things.
It's just in this one, he only did this one because he needed the money.
Yeah, because he wasn't a big slave. Friday the 13th probably didn't give him a lot of money. So this one probably main lead, second lead, whatever. He probably got a bit more money, and then he did His next movie was Apollo 13 or something.
Yeah,
or
something like that.
One of those sort of a sci-fi
And that's
movie.
why he couldn't return for a sequel.
Yeah, he was thinking about the sequel, but he had a better offer.
Because he really enjoyed working on this one with its
it
director.
was fun.
It was fun for him, but he had another offer on the table.
Yeah. Now, Finn Carter plays Rhonda Lebeck. Now, she's a bit of a university student doing a postgrad study out there for seismology. So we'll leave it at that. Now, as a husband and wife team, roles, Michael Gross plays Bert Gummer, and his wife is played by Rebecca McIntyre, as he plays Heather Gummer, and they're those survivalist type people out there, and they got 50 million guns in their basement and stuff.
Yeah,
and,
interesting thing about Michael Gross is that he's been throughout the Tremor franchise. He's been in all of them.
Yeah.
He's starred in every single one of them.
He makes it interesting. I mean, it's really good to have a comedy with people doing comedy bits, and he's sort of that sort of quasi bit in the middle there. Yeah. Not totally comical and not totally serious. He's sort of he's a fringe dweller.
Yeah, as I told Mike before, he's the Ahab in all these productions.
Yeah, he's there, a gung-ho guy who, I wouldn't say he saves everybody, but he's really instrumental in killing beasties.
Yeah, he starts naming the creatures, like we get these ones are called what do they call them?
The graboids, I think.
Yeah, and in the sequel we have the Screechers.
Screechers,
and I'm not going to go through the rest of this movie. I won't go into details because there's so many different versions that are out there.
Yeah, along comes Gumby. No, I will mention only one other person because I like him. A guy called Victor Wong. He plays Walter Chang. He has a local mini-mart, come everything.
What's it called?
I don't know.
What they call the old Western stores?
Let's call it an emporium. That'll do.
No, I was thinking about the old Western.
Small goods store. No.
I'm thinking
Trading Post.
No.
What are you talking about?
You know the old Western stores that they would.
The general store.
Yeah, general store.
Yeah,
that's
right.
it.
He sells everything. A bit of groceries, a bit of this, bit of that,
that's
whatever.
The term I meant.
Yeah. And it's really funny that he pops up in the odd places in Big Trouble in Little China and other shows. He plays a light-hearted role, which makes it interesting. I like him.
Quite right.
Bit of typecasting when he's in there, but hey, who cares?
Yeah, I'm sad that his character doesn't have his character gets killed halfway in.
We got gobbled up by one of the beasties.
And he was the one who named the beasties.
Graboid. Okay, I won't say anything more. Yeah, do you want to roll into it?
Yeah, might as well. So it begins with our two heroes, Earl and Val, or Valentine.
Well, Valentine is short. Val's short for Valentine.
Yeah,
Valentine,
so he called that. It makes sense. Anyway, they're
Val Kilmer. No.
So they're like your regular handymen who work in the town, and they have big dreams of getting out of this small and dead-end town and making a name for themselves.
It is a small town. Believe me, it is.
It's a one-horse town.
Actually, that was built for the movie. And near another small town, which was very like what they're going to build, but they couldn't actually trace the place.
No. That would be considered illegal, and we would get.
Well, it would have cost a lot more money.
It would cost a lot of problems. Anyway, so they make their plans of getting a bit of money together in hopes of getting out of town.
And going to a big city, a place called, I think it's a town down the road called Bixby or something or other.
Bixby!
And they've got to go to the big town there and get some real jobs. Yeah,
something like that. Anyway, they then meet the nice, what did they call, what's her job again?
The seismologist.
Seismologist.
They meet this lovely girl called Rhonda. Now, Val Kilmer's got this thing about getting the perfect female, and it'll look like bunny girls or page 3 girls out of Nude magazine.
He wants a sort of Playboy mansion type girl.
Yeah, and
the blonde with the blue eyes, you name
lovely
it.
bod,
nice
naked,
tits, all that stuff.
And along comes this girl who's girl next door, attractive, but funny. How things work out during a movie.
Earl tells him that while he may have been attracted to those girls in the past, they were nothing but airheads. They didn't last probably even a week.
Well, got pictures, never even saw them.
He probably did. Remember one of the girls he knows, and he used to probably date, but it probably didn't work out.
Probably not, because he's an airhead. He's a country bumpkin and she's a city girl, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever.
So anyway, they begin their chores. They build a fence. They head into town and clean out some sewage.
Yeah, they did it. They did everything: fencing, sewage, garbage room, whatever. Because it's only a small town. They were just general hands. Yeah.
And of course they are about to head off to Bigsby to make themselves big, and along the way they confronted a few problems on the way.
Yes.
Like most people would do whenever they think about leaving a small town.
On the road again?
Yeah, as it turns out, they have this weird creature problem.
No. Are you going to tell us about it?
Yes, as it turns out, there's these really big snake-like creatures underneath the surface.
They did know about them at the time.
Yeah, and they start killing people. I think the first one, was on an antenna thing.
They found a guy sitting up halfway up a power pole, those big metal things holding the power lines going over, the ground. It's halfway up one of those poles. And you're going, what's he doing up there? And they found he's dead. He's been up there for several days, died of dehydration.
Yeah, the doctor checked him over and said that he was up there for 3 days or something, and he died of dehydration or whatever, and probably hunger too.
Yeah.
And we meet another farmer,
guy,
who is farming and ploughing in his little garden bed, and his
sheep start getting a bit agitated.
Yes, and then somehow his body gets sucked beneath the surface. This is one of the things I like about this movie, because you don't see the monster. You just get a feeling about it.
You do later. Yeah, and they gradually see bits and pieces, then you start seeing them later on.
You just see people getting sucked beneath the surface to begin with. A few tentacles coming out. We think that those small snaky creatures are the monsters.
But they're not. They're attached to the monster. Okay,
yes.
whatever.
Anyway,
Fred goes, and then his seat gets chewed up.
Yes. Eventually, our two local boys, they come to the farm guy's house, and they see half the man buried beneath the sand.
I saw his hat, and they picked up his hat, and his head was under it.
Yeah. And then they head down they meet some guys who are drilling, I think, and tell them and they...
Doing road work or something.
Yeah, road work. And they told them that there's been a dead body. They said there's a killer on the roof.
And they didn't take it quite that serious.
And they continue drilling, and then the drill infiltrates the creature beneath the surface.
Yeah, some blood starts coming up through the ground. And look on Route 666, eh?
Yeah, and it shriek, and then it starts, and the drill attached to the creature starts going across the
going down the road by itself.
And one of the men who has the
guy using
wire tied around his ankle and pulled along.
Yeah, the air tube for the compressor. Yeah.
And the other guy gets killed in a landslide.
Yeah, so those two guys are out of the way. Yeah.
Yes, and then our next person on our chopping block is the local doctor. Well, a local who's just setting up.
I think he's a doctor. He's building a house out there somewhere.
And they're planning on moving to Bixby or something. Whatever, I don't know.
Or whatever. Yeah, but they're building a house there. They're going to have the house there instead of living in town or working in town, coming out here, living in a caravan. They're going to have their own house there. They're building it.
Yeah,
remember?
Yeah, and then somehow somehow the generator ends up getting sucked beneath the surface, and then the doctor inspects the place, but then finds that he gets sucked beneath the surface by the creature, and his wife tries to pull him out, but she ends up losing battle with the creature, and the creature sucks him down to the lower parts of the earth, to the ground.
Something like that. Yeah.
And she heads to her car. The creature follows, and it sucks the whole entire car deep under the ground.
It undermines the ground by making it really soft, like quicksand.
Yeah.
And they moved the dirt around, and they saw the headlights. Okay.
Yeah. Soon enough, our two boys who were at the general store with the other survivors, they tell them about the creature, and they also bring back a huge tentacle-like thing they found under their car.
Yeah. It wasn't a tentacle, it was a tongue more than anything, wasn't it, do you think?
Yeah. Of course, the owner of the general store, the Mr. Chang, whatever his name is, he asked for $20 for that thing.
No, you offered them 10.
Okay.
And they said they want 20 for it, and I think they showed down to 15 or something, didn't they? Yeah. And then he started putting up photos with the alien tongue or something or other.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the little girl who was being photographed with this creature thing.
Yeah.
I'd be grossed out. I not want to have my face. Yeah. Anyway, soon enough, they decide they should try to make it on horseback to try to get to the next local town in order
It's
to...
about 30 miles away, I think.
Which
or
is
something.
30 miles and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they pack up, they get some bullets and some weapons and some cheese and some horses.
Horses, yeah. Long walk.
Yes, well, they didn't walk, they took horses.
I know, I was joking.
So they rode a bit, and then along the way they come across these creatures, and they suck tries to suck one of the horses into the ground, and we then get a glimmer of the creature itself.
Yeah, it's starting to get, it pokes his head out of the ground. Okay, he's a big, isn't he?
Yeah, and now they realise that the creature is underneath the ground. They then run into Rhonda, the seismologist lady, and they then discover that the creature cannot crawl out onto the rocks. Somehow the rocks are hard.
Well, yeah, they can go through soft ground by disrupting it, like an earthworm does. Yeah. But if you get a solid rock, well, they can't go through that and they can't climb it.
Yeah, so they stay there all night apparently.
Yeah.
And while they tried to test whether or not the creature's gone, but somehow it was still there.
They threw a rock on the ground and
Then Rhonda has this beautiful idea of using pieces of wood to what they call it in...
Well, actually, they found some old poles there, skinny poles like water pipe or wooden poles, and they pole vaulted from one group of rocks to the next, which is rather a very ingenious way to do things.
I thought it was funny, though, watching them try it for the first time and, falter.
Yeah.
Anyway, they do eventually get across, and eventually they get to her car, and she drives with her hands on the pedals.
Yeah, she's hanging through the back window, hand on the accelerator and one hand on the steering wheel, and I don't know how she knew where she's driving.
True.
Yeah, unless you got eyes and fingers.
Eventually, they get back to the town, and they tell them what they found, their findings. And
they didn't quite believe them somehow or other. Would you? I wouldn't. No.
Yeah,
what have you been drinking? You've been smoking something.
Yeah, well, bear in mind, the tentacle is proof that this creature, they have creatures.
True. They had the tentacle attached to the back of the car, yeah.
Yeah, of course, one of the kids acting stupid, which is the oldest sibling, or whatever his name is, he's a total jerk. He continues to tomfooly everyone around him and totally pisses all the adults off here and there.
I know.
Anyway,
it was a comedy, remember?
We also discover these creatures they can hear everything, and
they can sense vibration. So if they hear you talking, the vibration of you talking can actually get vibrate down through the ground. They can actually hear the vibrations. A bit like, I think snakes are a bit like that. They don't actually hear you, but they feel the vibrations.
Yeah, they can, and that's where they could strike.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, there's vibration here. I'm going to strike it. Yeah. So I've walked past snakes. I used to work outside here, and I've walked past brown snakes very slowly, and they haven't attacked me. They go their way, I go my way, and I'm less than a metre away from them.
Yeah, they also came up with several theories about where these creatures came from. Like I think Earl came up with the expression that thinks that they came from they're aliens from out of the planet.
They come from outer space.
While others probably think these were prehistoric creatures.
Yeah, Rhonda thinks they're prehistoric. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
So
I don't know what did Val think they were.
I don't know. I don't think he cared.
He wasn't sure. They're big creepy crawlies, so I don't know. Whatever.
Soon enough, they then realised that they must get to. So they had to climb onto the roof to avoid these creatures. And at first, it was a great idea, and they even alerted what's his name, Bert and his wife, who are living in a bunker, living in a nice concrete.
They got a nice. I think they had a house or. A bunker made next to the caravan, or what were they living in? Do you remember?
I think it was a concrete type house.
No, that was downstairs.
Okay, they have a house.
I don't know whether they had just a bunker and had something like a big caravan type thing next to it. But but whatever, they had a bunker and they were downstairs in the bunker. Yeah.
So when the creatures come to Bert's place, they had a machine, a bullet machine. machine, I
They're
think.
doing something, yeah. They had a machine
the
going,
bullets.
and they were these creepy crawly things, these graboids.
Yeah,
One of them was
raptor.
attracted to the noise coming from their bunker.
Yeah, they come there and they then let off a lot of rounds into the creature, and they win and all that stuff, saying you picked the wrong bunker. I mean, wrong.
Right. Actually, my notes say it's a basement,
Yeah,
so they must have a house on top.
Right,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they then phone in there and gives them a ring, telling them that they killed one of the creatures and they're heading up to the roof.
Yay!
And of course, their car is vandalized by the creatures.
They gobbled it up.
They gobbled up their wheels and all that stuff.
Oh, rubber's very nice.
So they have no other vehicles in the area that could save them, because somehow the creatures formed its own plan of going underneath the foundation of the house and knocking out the foundation.
Knocked the house down so they can eat the people. What smart little creatures they are,
Yeah, somehow these creatures have a mind, even though everyone keeps saying how stupid they are. Anyway, they then make plans to use the special cat tractor thing.
A tractor type thing, yeah.
Yeah, because it's stronger and there's a big chance that these creatures won't pull it over or even bite its wheels or anything like that.
Well, they call the on the note too, they call the track load. It's just a tractor type thing, yeah. A big one.
I think Earl calls it a cat, I think.
What's a cat? It's a brand, a caterpillar.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so Earl and let me see, Val, they do the scissors paper rock thing.
They did all the way through the show, yeah.
It's an ongoing thing, just like when
an ongoing joke, yeah.
Like Earl says a bad word, he often says "pardon my French," and and even Rhonda even says it sometimes.
Oops, pardon my French, right at the end.
Yeah, so it's an ongoing joke and a quote in this probably.
Funny. Well,
so Val eventually doesn't win, but he then pounds Earl in the stomach and he bolts down to...
he wanted to do it because he wanted to save his friend from doing it. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, he bolts up to the place. Eventually the creature... they try to distract the creature using a smaller tractor type machine.
Yes, something like a small one, like a ride-on lawnmower, but a bit bigger.
Yeah, a ride-on lawnmower thing.
Yeah.
And for a while it worked really well, but unfortunately
it fell over.
and
hit a mound or something.
And Val is now a sitting duck.
Or lunch.
Yeah, of course Val stays really still, like he's making sure he's not going to disturb the creature, like as if he was attracting a T-Rex.
Don't break wind, he will hear you. No?
Yeah,
Okay,
so the rest of the survivors, they try shouting for the creature to come their way.
Yeah,
Eventually it works, and Val eventually gets the tractor and saves the rest of the people.
Yeah, he puts this old trailer, low loader trailer type thing on the back of it. And he drags it and everybody jumps into it. Yeah,
and for a while it works, but then we realised the creatures, they drilled a few holes, causing a bit of a...
Yeah, they did a bit of a... undermine the road, and they sunk into it.
Yeah, so they end up realising they may have to run to some boulders to avoid these creatures.
Hard ground boulders, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So they used one of Bert's
he made some homemade grenade type thing, little bombs. Yeah.
That he made himself before he headed into the tractor thing, and he detonated one of them, and they then run in the direction of the boulders to avoid the creatures.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You trick the creatures by making a big noise somewhere else, then run away.
Yes.
Come on, hurry up.
Yes. So
the people are getting tired.
Okay, sorry. So they're so now they're sitting ducks on a bunch of rocks now. Quack. Yes. So they need to figure out a new plan to get rid of the creatures. So their new plan is using some of the grenades in order to lure them to these things, get them to gobble it up, and then boom. Of course, this works the first time, but the second time the grenade ends up going into the bag full of the other grenades, boom!
This creature swallows them and then spits it out back at them. That's what happens. So I know this is one whack. And it landed straight in the box containing all the other grenade type things.
Yeah,
bombs,
this creature was no dummy.
They learned quite quickly.
Yeah, well, it's a lesson well learned. So the heroes have to run in every opposite direction to avoid getting.
Yeah, and Val's carrying the last bomb in his hand.
Yeah, he then comes up with his own plan and heads towards the cliff.
Yeah.
And his Rhonda and Earl follow him, and he lets off the bomb, and they misses.
No, he doesn't. He threw it behind the creature. That's why he's waiting there. He's standing at the cliff face, and it's waiting for the creature to come, and he threw it so it got in behind it, so it would actually scare it to go faster, and actually came up through the cliff and plummeted to its death.
Yeah, and he says, "Can you fly, you motherfucker?" And he says,
actually, I was going to talk about the swearing. There's a bit of swearing, but they've had to actually overdub it.
"Yeah."
Some of it was a couple of them, I think, got through, but a lot of it. That's about 15 or more, 20 times they swore and had to cover them up a bit.
Anyway, I'm not going to mention. I'm going to mention this now. That later on, some of the creatures in the third movie do eventually learn to fly. Eventually, don't ask me.
Oh, don't go too far ahead. We're doing this movie, okay?
Anyway, the creature plummeted and it struck on rocks, and he's dead.
Poor Diddums. Yeah.
Killing the final creature, and the town is saved, or the inhabitants are.
Yeah, whatever.
Now,
happy endings.
Now, Earl and Val have a good story to tell the media about what happened.
And supposedly,
May makes money off it.
Makes money out of it. But we believe that Val and Rhonda get married sometime after the end of the movie, because by the time the second movie starts, Val has settled down as a married man. I don't think actually gets mentioned who he married, but we believe it was her. She's a very nice girl.
Yeah. Anyway, it seems likely. Yeah. Anyway, then in the sequel, obviously, Earl.
Talk about this movie.
Yeah. So Earl watches his friend Val kissing Rhonda and indicating that the rest of the story of what may have happened.
If the chemistry is right.
Yeah, in the second one, it continues where Earl is now. He's been cheated of the rights of the story.
He's wasted money, and he's been cheated by other people, and he couldn't get money owing to him. So he's a poor, down his luck emu farmer with 2 emus.
You refuse to mate whatsoever.
Refuses to mate. Oh, great. A male and a female, and probably the male one's probably gay, or she's saying, not I got a headache, whatever,
and then Earl is approached by a businessman who wishes him to get rid of these creatures.
Down at Mexico way, at an oil plant, or an oil refinery.
And they say, if you get rid of these creatures for us, we'll pay you in quite a lot of dollars for each of your kills.
$50,000 per kill.
Yes. And one for if it's still alive,
and $100,000 for a live one if you catch one.
Yeah. Don't know why
they're going to... how much they actually made. Who did the head count? It's like for a few dollars more, or is a fistful of dollars or a few dollars more. It says, he's worth so-and-so, and he's worth so-and-so, and he's worth so-and-so. No, he's only worth so-and-so. Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Right.
Yeah, but eventually Earl falls in love with his dream woman in this movie.
Look, we're still in this movie, okay?
I'm sorry. It's just that Mike here told me...
Now, we can allude to some of the second movie, which we might review at a later date anyway. However, all we say... we could talk about the movie just in general a bit here. The second movie does carry on good. There's a sense of continuity.
Yeah.
I think humour-wise, and we're getting the balance right. I like both movies. Don't get me wrong. But the second movie comes over a bit more like an action movie. Yeah. I think. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely say that.
And I think some of the humour in the first movie has been toned down a bit to make it not so humoury, but still humorous. Because had a guy in there playing his Earl's offsider, took Val's place, and he's a bit of a comedy relief guy. And we did have our little man there, Bert, coming in there to help out, and he's a bit of a comedy relief. But it basically was a reasonably good, more of an action horror with some comedy thrown in. And I think it stood up better to me. That's just me.
Another thing,
that was a lower budget too.
Yeah, there's another thing about this first movie is that this is the first movie directed by Ron Underwood. First film he directed himself, so it's his first time. So that explains why it was viewed as a I guess it would be a shaky start for any
Well, I don't
filmmaker
know.
at the beginning.
I think this movie is a good movie.
I have no doubt.
I think the only thing that held it back was at the theatre was probably misjudging the audience. Maybe maybe the audience would wanted more comedy or more horror. Maybe at that time back in 1990, if it had done say 10 years earlier, it might have done better, or 10 years later, it might have done better. But at that point in time, they wanted a particular mix, and maybe they didn't get the mix properly.
That's true.
That's all it is, which is fun. It's actually, someone actually, I read about something, and you did your movie.
Yes.
Take the Cat People. All right. And that was like a tribute to the 1950s style movies. So they likened this to the same sort of thing.
I agree.
Because they had the same sort of, basic guys running around. Oh, got a creepy crawly monster. Throw a bit of humour in, a bit of action, whatever. And they were working on the same sort of premise of doing a 50s style movie, but based in the 80s or 90s.
I guess I see your point, considering that originally it was going to be called, Land Sharks.
Land Sharks. And they couldn't use that name because it was being used in Saturday Night Live or something rather.
Yeah, and when you think about it, I don't think that name would have sold really well, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't feel right. It feels like just another B-grade movie.
But actually, then they had a working title, which wasn't this, and then the final release came out with his name. Had about 3 names, this is about the 3rd name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you mentioned Ron Underwood as a director. He was actually a filmmaker, director for National Geographic.
That explains a lot.
So he was doing documentary type stuff. He may not have done a feature film before.
So this that explains a lot.
Well, he had the style to get the scenes, capture the scenes and whatever. But he'd probably be doing more birdies and crocodiles and bears and ice flows and other good groovy things. But he hasn't done a movie before.
Yeah, but it was kind of clever how they made the creature when it's in the ground. That's always a good awesome. That's an awesome effect they did.
But here's something else. The concept of Tremors, the concept of it, was conceived in the early 80s when the writers, Wilson and Maddock, were working for the United States Navy as filmmakers in charge of creating educational safety videos. And they were in a particular area, and they in a desert type area, climbed some rocks. Said, "Hey, what would happen if you had something happen and you had to get stuck on these rocks?" And you couldn't get off the rocks, and that was the catalyst for doing a script about these sandworm type thingy creatures. Yeah, and that's where it all came from. And they actually had a word to somebody who knew a bit more about creepy crawlies and stuff, and they made it a bit more real. They padded it out with more sciencey type stuff.
They do have as you often said, Mike. I mean, if these guys have been documentary filmmakers stuff, then they may have in contact with people who may have good knowledge of the stuff. Who may give you a bit of food for thought, cliff notes of animal behavior and creature behavior, and that would have filled them in on the elements they'll be needing for their script.
And here's something too, I just noticed. These guys, Wilson and Maddock, they wrote the script for Short Circuit. And that was a financially successful movie, and that's how they got the credit, the funding for this movie.
That's cool.
Yeah. How's that grab you?
Very cool.
Yeah, pretty groovy. What else? Film took about 50 days.
50 days,
50 days, yeah, about 2 months. Now, the principal photography took place around Lone Pine in California. And the isolated community of Darwin, California.
Yeah, and before you ask me, guys, it was it wasn't summer in real life. It was actually it was winter time when they were filming this.
Whoopee.
So the actors were forced to wear summer clothing instead of something warmer.
Yes.
So
now, can I finish what I'm saying?
Go on.
The isolated community of Darwin, California, which accrued light because of its uncanny similarities to the fictional town of Perfection. That was the name of the pretend town.
Yeah.
Now the town was a purposely built set, buildings, a general store, house, whatever. So that was all done. Built near Alancha, I think it is, Alancha, California. The mountains in the back of the Sierra Nevada and the Owens Lake is visible in the background during the final scenes.
Well, that explains a lot, considering that it's still the story does take place in
Yeah.
Nevada.
Yeah.
Nevada.
I won't go on to anything else.
I mean, most of the time, whenever you encounter a movie in America, they would often film it in even Europe sometimes to make out that it's filmed in America.
Well,
to make
actually, here's something for you.
Yeah.
Well, two things. Tremors 2 was going to be filmed in Australia.
Really?
Yep. But they couldn't get the big name stars to come in. They wanted Kevin Bacon and I think somebody else. I can't remember at the moment. And they said no. So they said, we're not going to put that much money into the budget. So they dropped the budget down to $4 million. So they did it at home. But again, get down to budgets and stuff and make sets and trying to make out to somewhere else. You need the good, the bad, and the ugly movies. They're supposed to be in Southern California and Texas and those sort of areas back in the olden days. They were done in Spain or somewhere. Yeah, go figure it.
Go figure it.
Yeah, interesting. I won't go on to the creatures and everything. That's too much involved. Yeah, but all I can say is the Amalgamated Dynamics designed the creatures. I think they were quite believable and did the job quite nicely. The original music score, which you can identify with this a bit. Now, I won't mention the guy's name. Okay. Oh, well, here you go. Composer Ernest Trost, T-R-O-O-S-T, musical score for the film went mostly unused. The studio thought it was too goofy because he was probably writing for comedy.
I see.
It didn't suit what they wanted. You had that same trouble when you were doing your movie. Yeah. And they cut most of it. Later hiring another composer, Robert Falk, to write a new score that was more serious and actiony. So yeah, the musical score for a movie can either make or break it. We saw that thing there making monster movies, something or other, and they had, was it Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm? No, was it? Which one's Michael Myers guy? And they had the bit where they're running up
Halloween.
the back of the Halloween. Yeah, at the back of the car, well, when they came up there, jump onto the roof, and they had it without the music. Then they added the music. Totally different feel, didn't it? Yeah, that whatever movie the music they made for it, it's just a totally different feel to it. The music can make the scene, the atmosphere and stuff. So yeah, it was a good call because it could have been a dead movie otherwise.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people I've talked to, a lot of filmmakers and actors, they will always tell me the key to making a good movie, one of the key things is the music.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be over the top.
Doesn't have to be over
It's
top.
got to be just enough to set the mood. When people aren't talking, or there's no action noise going on like bang, bang, thank you, ma'am, whatever, that sort of stuff, you're going to need something. You just don't have dead audio track, but you need something. If it's the olden days, they used to overdo it sometimes. Driving down the road, I mean, sometimes the music was really over the top and crazy, but it was acceptable because that's what they're doing at the time. But then they'd change the dynamics of it. And I think they got the idea from, the olden days of the silent movies? You go to a theatre and you have the movie running, you have a little old man or a little old lady playing the piano there, and all the shit music, and they'll be changing, swapping and changing, something light, something heavy, something actiony, something, and they'll be doing it all the way through the movie for an hour and a bit. Yeah.
Anyway, tell me about the reviews. You told me there's some favourable reviews in this movie.
Well, I'll give you a good opening line here. Tremors was hailed by critics for its diverse cast and humour.
Okay.
That's a good start.
That's a good start.
And most of the reviewers gave it medium to good reviews based on the fact that they got the mix right. It wasn't too campy, it wasn't too funny, it wasn't too scary. It had the right mix. And that's
Sweet.
They got the mix right. There was one thing here. A crowd called TV Guide said something like this. Tremors is very well cast, with Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon providing affable and enjoyable comedy leads. The special effects are first rate. It may not top today's 10 best list, but Tremors is nevertheless solid entertainment. And that encapsulates pretty much what all the other ones actually saying. Now, moving on to a negative one.
This will be interesting.
Yes. But this is the line I like because these guys don't always get it right.
No.
Gene Siskel initially gave the film a negative review stating, most of the secondary characters aren't compelling and its horror conventions are lame. Tremors could make a cute short subject, but it doesn't sustain itself as an entire film. But he later gave the film a positive review in his book, Cinema, Year by Year, 1894 to 2001, saying, if you want to see a good B-movie, watch Tremors. It was one of the few monster movies to get the formula right. How can he go from one negative one saying it's lame, then saying, hey, it's so damn good?
You must have watched it again and realised how wonderful it is.
That's why I go by what these reviewers say most of the time. They're biased in many cases. Or I don't like horror movies, so I'm going to grade every horror movie down. I don't like action movies. I like musicals, so every action movie I'm going to grade down. Yeah, it just goes on. And I get sick of these guys who pay to do a review on a movie to give people, I'd like to think, an unbiased view on what the movie is.
Yeah, this guy didn't seem like he knew where he was coming or going.
He had no idea. 1 minute he's saying that, and later on he writes a book saying how great it is. No. Yeah. Now, I'm going to touch on the second movie lightly, only to mention that when they remade this movie, it was produced by different people, Nancy Roberts and Christopher DeFaria, directed by S.S. Wilson, and it was written by Brett Maddock and S.S. Wilson. So the same guys wrote it, which is good.
That's awesome.
And they brought Fred Ward back and Michael Gross, but all the other people were either dead
or made up or gone.
Or married. They made a good second movie. I haven't seen the third one yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
I'm going to see it next day or two. So yeah, I'm going through it at the moment. I think I saw it years ago, but yeah, I'm getting old. My brain's going a bit. Yeah.
In this one, it deals with, as I said before, Earl's been given a bad hand. He's working as a emu farmer or whatever.
Yeah, well, not a very good one.
Yeah, and he's been offered the job to kill off another bunch of ground lizards. And of course, much later, halfway through the movie, he deals with something that he's unexpectedly never expected in the world. Yeah. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yep. Oh, here it is. The film was originally planned to be filmed in Australia on a $17 million budget, with the proposal that Kevin Bacon and Reba McEntire would both be returning. There you go. Unfortunately, McEntire had a decline due to a major tour she'd been currently on, so she's a bit tired and whatever. And Bacon, although he was intrigued, turned down to do Apollo 13. He had a choice, and because of that, they said we're going to limit the budget to $4 million. So they didn't go to Australia; they filmed somewhere else. Yeah,
poor thing.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. And they cut out some of the special effects things I'm going to use. But it's still a good movie. Don't get me wrong. But they're going to do more in the movie. But we'll review that another day. But I do like Fred Ward. To me, there's something about Fred. He reminds me of somebody else when you see him acting. I mean, he's Fred Ward, obviously.
And just so you guys know, we've reviewed another movie with him in it where he started as a detective.
The
Cast of a Deadly Spell.
He was there. And he comes over as probably Fred Ward in that. But in this movie, he comes over, he's got a De Niro quality or something. I can't put my finger on it at the moment.
All I know is that, like him and a number of other actors I'm familiar with, he can pull off any type of role he sets his mind to. He could play a detective. He could play a drunk in a pub. He could play anything that sets his mind to him. Even a corrupted bad guy if you wanted to.
Probably, yeah. You got one of those sort of personalities. You can probably turn to anything. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, he's not. I don't see him as. He's not very handsome.
He's ruggedly handsome. I think. He's not a Ken or a Barbie type. He's not plastic. Yeah.
He's not over the top handsome. Not to me.
Don't tell him that. He might be upset now.
He's handsome, ruggedly handsome.
Ruggedly handsome, yeah.
But in a different type of handsome.
Like Harrison Ford and that sort of stuff. He's not a glamour boy, but he's good looking.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Both men and Humphrey Bogart, they have a handsome quality to them, personality-wise.
A man's man, I think it used to be what they call him. Yeah.
But just a different type of handsome, even if most people probably won't see it that way. Except for those who have actually experienced firsthand what they're looking for in a movie. But
you look at all the guys like Harrison Ford, good looking guy, not a glamour puss. Okay, sorry Harrison. Who's another one who fits in that? You mentioned Humphrey Bogart, but there's other good actors like that out there. You know, guys who look really good to suit their role, but they're not. They don't look. They come out of a beauty salon with the nails done, the hair combed properly. They've been in solariums and stuff. You know, they look like a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not real people don't look like models, and that's what I think what we're trying to get at. There are guys out there and women who look good without looking like models, and I think it makes that more natural when you make a movie.
That's why I think when I look at Kevin Bacon, he's one of many people who won't. He's not a glamour puss, but he comes off as someone.
He's a good-looking man, yeah.
But he's a good-looking man.
Sure, excuse me. Because I've seen a lot of things. Wasn't he? He was in Hollow Man, wasn't he?
Yeah, an Invisible Man type movie.
Yeah. That was quite good. A couple of years later, and that was fun. He makes a good role. He's not a Ken or a Barbie type. He's not plastic. He looks like a real person and acts like a real person. He's natural.
Yeah.
And that's what I like in movies. Natural people. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like glamour pusses. I mean...
They're good. Eye candy's always good in the movie, don't get me wrong. I mean, if I'm going to watch something like... what's a good movie with lots of good people in it? Like Charmed. The movie...
Craft?
The Craft. No, one of the three sisters living in the house.
Practical Magic.
Practical Magic, yeah. Yeah, Sandra Bullock and who the other two? I can't remember. I got a mental lock. Three good-looking women. Okay.
That's not how the movie is. Practical Magic has two aunts and two women who are both sisters.
Well, whatever. Wasn't it? Whatever. No. They're all good looking. You had Sandra Bullock, you had, was it Nicole Kidman or somebody in it?
Yeah, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, all these good looking women.
He's not good at this movie.
I haven't seen the movie for years. That wasn't one of my favourite ones.
In fact, he often confuses this one with Craft and Charmed.
No, Charmed was a TV spin-off type series. Wasn't it Charmed? Wasn't Charmed the spin-off series? Something like that? Whatever. See, I don't watch that. That's a girl. She watched those, so I didn't.
He's confusing this one with Charmed.
But
ones.
I know Nicole Kidman was in one of them.
Well, you keep going on about three women. That's Charmed.
Whatever.
And this one, Practical Magic, is about two sisters having to deal with using magic.
Whatever.
That's a big difference.
Okay. Right. Whatever. But some of them, they use eye candy to make it look good. And they put good-looking women, good-looking guys, whatever you. So eye candy does help a movie. You can't look like me. I look like Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, but you got to admit though, Mike, I do like the natural, good-looking blokes, even though outside that role, I think we said before with another actor who played in Lord of the Rings, Strider. Who outside that
Viggo Mortensen.
Outside that role, when he's doing different role, he doesn't look as...
He looks really good in Lord of the Rings. The image they made for him with the long dark hair and a bit of a short beard and stuff and his colour, he looked magnificent. My daughters thought he was fantastic.
He was hot.
And then they saw him without the makeup on, his normal hair and his blonde and stuff, and they said, "Who's that guy?"
Yeah, I saw him in this sort of an olden day.
Hidalgo.
Yeah, sort of a car racing thing.
No, horse race.
Or horse racing thing. Yeah. And he looked very ordinary in that movie.
Well, he didn't look. He looked like a cowboy. That's what he's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. But the point is that I think that's close to what he really looks like.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And you're going, ew. So, I was all like, who's the guy who plays Mr. Smith in Matrix?
I don't know his name. Sorry.
Yeah, he's in V for Vendetta and stuff.
I know
Hugo Weaving. Now, magnificent voice, great actor. And my daughter says, that guy V, oh, he's so good. Then she saw what Hugo Mortensen really looks like. Now, I'm not knocking Hugo Weaving, man. Hugo Weaving is a fine actor and a very good man. He just his voice just surpasses everything else. Mm-hmm. He has a great voice, and I mean, yeah, it's just something about the way he talks. You know?
Yeah. So we rate this Tremors movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it about 8.5. 8.5. 9 maybe. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10 myself.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been a little bit more. I've had a bit more money to throw at special effects and stuff. They could have done a bit better, but I think for what it is, it's not a bad movie. Yeah.
Yeah, for what it is, it's still a great movie to watch, guys, and don't knock it until you watch it.
No, it's good fun. It's if you like the old 50s style sci-fi horror type movies, that sort of fits in a similar sort of category. I mean, it's just fun running around chasing monster, beating it up and killing it and surviving at the end, and that's basically what it is. It doesn't rely on ridiculous heavy special effects to make it work or anything.
Yeah, I think this one really did work really well, unlike previous movies that were done in the 90s and were practically done, but in using no CGI, just using old-fashioned special effects.
I don't think CGI might have just been coming in around then, because I think in Tremors 2, I think they used a bit of CGI.
Not so much. They used real hands-on special effects, as far as I'm concerned.
In Tremors 2, when they were running around, they used
I
CGI.
meant the first one.
I just said that in Tremors 2.
I said Tremors 1.
Yeah, I just said that.
No, you didn't. You said Tremors 2. I said Tremors 1.
Yeah, but I said that. I said they didn't use CGI much in Tremors 1. But when Tremors 2 came along, so it's a couple of years later, they're starting to get better CGI.
Yeah, but they still did the old-fashioned way for the ground.
Oh, they still had the animatronics and different things and puppets and whatever and rubber monsters and stuff. But when they had them running around, like in Jurassic Park, they had the Gallimimuses running through the field. Well, that was computer generated, and they use the same thing for these guys running around. It would have been too expensive to make the creatures do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, I do like this. I do advise you guys check this movie out and go on Amazon if you don't have it.
It is available on Amazon and eBay. It's probably available in other places as well. So you should be able to get a good copy. Yeah. And they're doing Blu-ray and 4Ks and stuff on it because they're really. It's really holding its own. So
bear in mind, guys, remember to put down the date because there's so many film franchises of Tremors coming out at this very moment.
Tremors 1990. Actually, one of the ads said 1989. So be very careful.
Yeah, another thing I should mention, as Mike already mentioned, this movie was originally going to be released in, say, 1980 something, whatever. But for some reason, they had to postpone it till the 1990s.
I think, they had to edit out some swear words and stuff, so it's delayed it by a month or two.
Yeah.
So that's why I think the dates are a little bit.
Damn you, censorship, guys!
Yeah. It was set to be released in November 1989, but they gave an R rating owing to the language, so they decided to do some overdubs to get rid of some naughty words. I won't go through what sort of stuff they did because, but it was enough to sort of get it passed and bring it down to a PG-13 rating, which probably expanded its viewing audience, which is good. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so that's about it for us today, guys. So thanks for listening to this podcast, and be sure to check out Tremors and all the others if you can. But be sure to watch the first one because it's always important to watch it first so you understand where it came from.
If you got a franchise, it's always good. In my belief, anyway, to watch them in order in case there's a continuing theme going through it.
Just so you guys know, I think in the fourth one or the fifth one, I think it was. There was a bit of a prequel movie they did.
There is a prequel in there, I believe.
Where in that one, it seems the monsters came around during the Wild West days, like 18th century, whatever.
Well, whatever. 100 years earlier or something.
1800s.
Whatever, about 100 years before or something.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Of course, Michael Gross comes back as a bit of a great-great-grandfather to Bert, I think.
A strong family resemblance, do you think?
Yes. I guess that's kind of cool. Adding a bit of an interesting
bit of a backstory.
Even though I don't know if he would have ever mentioned, guess what? I fought these creatures, and I will tell my great-great-grandson about it.
Would you?
Nope.
Nah.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening to our latest podcast, everyone, and I hope you guys listen to our next one, whenever that may be. So, we'll see you guys for the next one. So, this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Martel.
Saying, see you guys for our next podcast, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Good evening, guys.